Just gonna close that Bill O'Reilly thing before we start.
Fucking thing sucks.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
That's like did you ever hear of the Casey Kasem thing that Negative Land did?
No, what's that? Who's Casey Kasem, first of all?
Yeah, so this is another generational gap thing.
It's a made up name.
It's like I think it's like Kasem or something. Kasem. It's like Turkish or something.
Okay.
His first name is Casey.
It's like Hassan Piker, but it's Kasem or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is another thing where people in the comments will be scoffing that you don't know who he is.
Okay.
But it is generationally appropriate. So Casey Kasem was this like top 40 radio DJ in like the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And he would like do this like, kind of like Total Request live countdown thing called like American Top 40.
Yeah. Okay. So
it'd be like American Top 40 with Casey Kasem counting down the road, right? Like when he's like radio.
So
kind of for
me, that was Ryan Seacrest, right?
Yeah. Well, Casey was just on the normal radio, like he wasn't on MTV. But so his whole like persona is just like really, like friendly uncle kind of dude that just introduces pop music, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, he just normally seems really kind of like generic and friendly, but there's one video where it's kind of like the one we just watched with O'Reilly, where he was caught off the air, just having like a breakdown, and they just recorded it
like in the studio.
Yeah, in the studio,
okay.
right? And it's even more wild than that,
right?
Like it's just full on, like it just sounds like he's on meth or something,
right?
And he's just like because people are like calling in and they're like they're like introducing their stories, like, oh, I want to hear, I don't know, Guns N' Roses November Rain because my dog died, and my dog's name was Rain, or I don't know, like something like that. And Casey's just like flipping out. He's like, I have to get on here and introduce stories about a fucking dog dying. He's just like losing, he's breaking down, right? And
character is just evaporated.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And his persona is just totally evaporated. He's just like flipping out over it completely. And he's like, there's a little dog called fucking Snuggles, and he's just like going off and on this like crazy rant, right?
But so like this wasn't like a hot mic situation. This wasn't like going out.
It was like, I guess it was like the studio technician just recorded it,
right.
And then it like leaked somehow.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
It was an accident, right? Like it wasn't like some. I think it was just like literally a studio technician leak, right?
Right.
Of like backstage recording, right?
That's a lawsuit. But.
Yeah. So we'll wait for it, right? so what happened was there's this like quasi situationist band called Negative Land. Okay. In like the late 80s. And so they got a hold of this recording and they like sampled it into a track, right?
Right.
Like they added a beat and everything.
Yep.
And it just turned it into like a techno version where he's like, a fucking little dog named Snuggles.
What year was this?
Snuggle, right? I don't know, like 89 or something.
Okay, interesting.
89 or 90.
So then Deadmau5 did that with the Bill O'Reilly clip.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, there's nothing.
But were they the first ones to
there's nothing.
that? Or?
There's nothing new under the sun, right?
Yeah.
But so what they did, so Negative Land got doubly sued, if I remember right, because what they did was part of the Casey track was he was introducing like a U2 song, right? It was With or Without You, right?
Okay.
That song where it's like with or without you. Yeah, it's kind of like a ballad, right?
No, I haven't. It doesn't ring a bell, but
if you heard it,
whatever,
if you heard it,
like
you definitely recognize it.
Any U2 song,
yeah,
I think
it's
kind of fits the.
Just a cheesy, U2 kind of ballad, right?
Right.
It was really popular, as they tend to be, right? So what Negative Land did was they simultaneously sampled the actual U2 song and the Casey recording. So like the music of With or Without You is playing in the background.
Right.
Then Casey's like I'm gonna fucking kill blah, 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 right? And then it's just like with or without you, right? And then they just keep like looping.
So they like mix the two together.
Yeah, they mixed the two together and they looped it.
They're playing with fire at that point, right?
And then what they did was they called their album U2 and they put it in big letters on the cover.
Well, like,
so
like literally the band name
they
U2?
literally called it U2, right?
Right.
So like people that would walk into a record store and they think, oh wow, a new U2 album.
Right.
And then they buy it and it's Casey like talking about screaming about dying dogs and kind of stuff, right? So as you can imagine, lawsuits were not very.
They're not like a big band, right?
Nah, they're just like a
So they definitely
situation.
kicked the hornet's nest.
Yeah, they definitely kicked the hornet's. So I think they, if I remember right, they did get hit with various immediate lawsuits from both U2 and Casey, because again, it's totally.
Did they survive?
Well,
or did it destroy them?
I mean, I don't even know.
But
I can't really remember,
I guess.
But I mean, it's still. It obviously got a huge amount of attention because again, it's like 1989, right? And like people are not used to like hearing, not as used to hearing this kind of stuff. So it is like it's. I mean, we can put it on after this, but it's incredibly hilarious because it's just like what is this, right? Like, is this real? Like, what?
Well, situationist goal accomplished.
Yeah,
kinda,
so
right?
that's a good. That's actually one of the better examples of situationist art, I guess.
Right,
is just doing things that are like, what is this real? Like, what the fuck? Like, what?
Just push all the buttons.
You too? Like, what is this? Yeah. So yeah, no, it's similar to that, but amazingly hilarious example.
Yeah.
I don't think they really did much after that. I guess they're one of these like really underground minor kind of bands, but I mean, they did have, for a brief moment, they were coming out with some interesting stuff.
Did what was his name? Casey Kasem?
Casey Kasem.
Okay.
I think it was just Kasem.
Casey.
Yeah.
Did he have much of a career after that, or was that? Did that?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, I mean, he kept. He still had his career.
Okay.
I mean, he was already kind of like grandfather status by that point, so I don't think he was like really in danger of like losing his job or anything. But
it reminds me of the recent Pee-wee Herman stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know that one?
Recent Pee-wee Herman? Well, he's dead.
Is it recent? I think it came out recently, but he got caught like jerking off.
That's ancient, man.
That's ancient. But did that surface recently?
No. That was his original downfall. In like 19.
Did he die recently?
He died recently.
Okay, so that's why that story made the rounds again.
Yeah. So I mean, he was an interesting dude, and like much like
Pee-wee Herman.
Yeah. So like much like,
but huge gap between like the character and who he actually was, right?
Yeah, but there's much like Woody Allen. Like the story is not as clear cut as it would maybe seem. So I'm very much in the Pee-wee Herman did nothing wrong camp.
Right. Well, he was in a porn theater. That's what you do there, basically.
I mean, well, he was an adult who was privately in a porn theater, and
not as a public figure, right?
Yeah.
So just going about his life,
and
doing his sexuality as he saw fit.
He wasn't even really. I mean, like, if I can't even remember, but I think he was like maybe feeling himself through his pants. Like he had his hand in his pocket or something.
But I also think that that's what is expected in that environment. He wasn't exactly violating
that too, right? So there's a very like, again, because this is America, right? Where you're either one or the other, right? You can't like, the idea of being a complex adult who, I don't know, like it's kind of like, does Mr. Rogers fuck, right? Like no one wants to ask that question,
right?
But I mean, presumably he did. I mean, he's a human being.
It would stand to reason.
He's a human being. So, I think the Pee-wee situation was the same thing where they're like, oh, this guy's hosting a quasi children's TV show.
Right.
And he went to a adult theater. Let's, crucify him. It's like, well,
because Puritanism.
Because, well, yeah. Like, did he touch anyone? Did he hurt anyone?
No, let's just ruin the guy's
just
life.
Ruin him, right? Just ruin him, right? So that's all it was, man. And like he was gay and he wasn't really out of the closet.
Right.
But
that's his right, I guess.
Yeah, like who cares, right?
Yeah.
Like fuck, like it's so stupid.
So like if you're in kids entertainment, you better be like white as snow and
buttoned down, married and white as snow and fucking
reminds me of the Steve from Blue's Clues.
Did he get canceled or something
Something, right? Or did... I need to look this up.
Yeah.
I think the rumor was he like commit suicide, but I think that was false.
Committed suicide?
Yeah.
Did he? He died?
Blues Clues controversy.
Was there a controversy?
Allegations of abuse and harassment at Nickelodeon while he wasn't on the show during the most severe allegations. Yeah. So it's part of the Quiet on Set documentary, I guess.
Yeah.
Rumors of death. Burns has publicly addressed rumors that he died, stating he did not die in a car accident, overdose, or from a terminal illness. He just disappeared. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, just same kind of thing where you're not allowed to be a human being after appearing on kids TV shows, right?
Yeah. So that's one, and I would say the other one is maybe, as I mentioned, is Woody Allen, right? Which is another one where like the smear campaign against him was very effective.
Yeah.
It was very targeted on purpose. Which was basically like make him out to be a child molester.
Right.
Who allegedly, I mean, he didn't, but he allegedly molested someone who...
Well, it was like their adopted daughter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, so Mia Farrow basically like coached her children, and like the boy, Moses, who's a grown up now, right? I mean, he's posted about it publicly. He's like, yeah, I remember mommy coaching me to say that daddy had touched me.
Right.
And he hadn't. Like, I really loved daddy, you know, I really loved Woody, and
right.
he was the only one who noticed me and, you know, kind of treated me like a human being. Mommy just wanted me to be like an ornament, right?
Well, she was one of these serial adopters.
Yeah,
right?
She was a serial adopter, right? So she had this like weird fantasy of like creating like the perfect adopted family that would like, I don't know, showcase her amazing motherhood skills or something. So Woody Allen's in the middle of this.
Where you're basically just like a Pokemon trainer at this point.
Yeah, you're a Pokemon trainer, right? And that's what she did. She
catch them all.
Yeah, so she decided that she didn't like Woody Allen anymore.
Right.
So she's like, all right, I'm not just going to like divorce him. I'm going to like crucify him. Right. So she literally like coached these adopted kids into like claiming that he like molested them, which like he didn't. Right.
So this is indeed the narrative I heard most of. And I think the recent documentary kind of pushed that idea, laid it bare that Mia Farrow is actually probably the lunatic in this situation.
It's one way of putting it.
Well, to put it lightly, perhaps. Yeah. What about the there was like a maid or something who allegedly walked in.
The other thing that
that was also Mia Farrow.
The other thing that people didn't like was that Mia Farrow had previously adopted a slightly older orphan who I think was Korean American, if I remember right. So she was like, I don't know, 19 or something, and she was just like in the area, or like she was just kind of around.
Oh, right. She wasn't even Woody's like adopted daughter. Right?
It was Mia Farrow's adopted previous daughter, right? So she and Woody,
like from before they were even together.
If I remember right, Okay. So like she and Woody ended up having a relationship, and they're still together,
right?
And she's like, yeah, nah, like I chose Woody.
Right.
I was an adult.
Yeah.
Like right. So, but people were like, again, the media is like, oh, he like, you know,
groomed her,
groomed his own daughter.
Right.
And it's like, A, she's not his daughter.
Right.
B, like he didn't adopt her.
Yeah.
C, like she was an adult. And D, she's still happily with him now.
Right.
And is claiming that she chose him.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well, nothing stands in the way.
Nothing stands in the way of a good story, right?
A good PR firestorm.
The PR firestorm, yeah. But that's still hugely controversial.
Right.
And like otherwise sane and intelligent people will still be like, oh yeah, like Woody Allen is toxic. Like we can't watch his movies because Woody Allen. It's like, bro, like are you not capable of parsing reality?
And
like
whatever happened to separating the art from the artist, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's even a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But in this case, you literally don't even need to, because he
the
like
underlying stories.
He didn't do any, like, he didn't actually do anything wrong.
Yeah.
In any sense.
The age gap in any situation just brings on the whole litany of
Americans
societal.
Americans are magically morally obsessed with age gaps. I mean, that's like their, I don't know,
you
fetish.
Think this is uniquely American?
Oh yeah. Most of the world doesn't remotely. I mean, other than the Anglosphere moral world, the rest of the world doesn't particularly care one way or the other about age gaps. I mean, what I think Japan, like, do you think Japan cares about age gaps really?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how many of these couples I see are actual romantic life partners, and how much is just papakatsu or whatever happening.
I mean, there's certainly that gray zone.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not such a concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening in broad daylight, and there's no moral outrage over it, right?
In practice, do most people tend to pair up with people in their same age cohort?
Roughly,
well, in practice, yeah.
Yeah.
But no one is like crazily bothered if someone doesn't.
Right.
Or like if someone chooses to go, higher or lower, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really it's a private matter. Yeah. So what is it? It's not really a moral public matter.
I felt like you didn't watch White Lotus, right?
I want to.
You want to?
I want to.
Yeah. It's one of the better.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Can you give it to me? Or?
Well, you can watch it on HBO Max.
Okay, I won't be watching it then. Yeah, I'm not going to be subscribing.
But we'll talk later.
Yeah.
But
you can't like download it or anything, or?
Well, no.
Uh-oh. Breaking the law.
No, you cannot.
Breaking the law.
But you can purchase a subscription from the good people at HBO.
Purchase a subscription at HBO.com.
HBO Max or whatever.
HBO Max,
I think in Japan it goes. I mean, anyway. Stepping away from that for a moment. Yeah, it's one of the better contemporary shows.
Respect copyrights.
Yeah, don't pirate.
Obey authority.
You wouldn't steal you wouldn't download a car,
you
right?
Wouldn't download a car. Yeah. Buy products, reproduce. Right?
Support artists, I guess. I think that's the broader and talking about the show is arguably supporting it, right?
Advertising it.
That being said, the latest season takes place in Thailand, and boy, did they love to push the sleazy white.
I saw the
Western
I saw the like monologue or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that is pretty. I think I posted that in the chat.
I didn't
actually.
see it. Yeah, sorry.
I posted that in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty funny. I mean, I just saw it out of context. I mean, it's pretty funny and.
That one's pretty comical.
I think there's some truth there, probably.
There's some truth. There's some truth. Yeah. There are other scenes that kind of love to bash. I don't know, push that cultural button, basically.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I mean, is it? Yeah. I mean, when I was in Bangkok recently, absolutely, you saw exactly the type of men in the show walking down the street towards hotels with Thai girl in her 20s.
Sure, man. That's always been the case. I mean, it's
always been
it's
the
not
case,
anything new. I mean, Thailand was like that,
but
shame,
going back, right?
Yeah.
And coming from a supposedly liberal, liberated culture. Right?
No, it's nothing but that, man. It's a very moralistic,
closeted Puritanism,
closeted Christian culture, that has smuggled all that Puritan heritage into the smuggled it in the backpack or whatever. It's still all in the backpack.
Right.
Isn't that was the person that came up with the check your privilege thing? I think their original essay was like unpacking the backpack or something.
Okay.
Whereas I think they should be unpacking their own backpack. Not necessarily.
I'm not following what's the situation?
It's just like, assumptions and things you're carrying around without maybe being aware of, right?
And so this person basically did not unpack their own.
Well,
backpack.
I would my criticism of them would be that they're not necessarily taking their own advice, I guess.
Yeah.
Like their own idea of like what constitutes, I don't know, privilege or I don't know, morality or ethics or anything is also maybe maybe someone else. I'll just suggest that someone else may have packed big parts of their backpack for them without them realizing it.
Yeah,
and that would certainly be, you know, Puritan culture and other secularized morality structures, which are still very much alive, and should be thoroughly, you know, made fun of when we do encounter them. I think because they're pretty stupid. But
it's funny how it's a bit of a shape-shifting thing where just it's just embedded into the culture, and it, you know, switches sides, and like but inevitably it lives on, right? Like the moral outrage just is.
Mark Fisher, who's an interesting theorist, described it as the vampire castle. I don't know if you've read this.
No. What's this?
He's saying that it's like basically, I mean, he was basing it on like woke Twitter, basically. So he was saying like it functions, like in practice, it functions very much like almost like its own Catholic church, right? You know, there's like dogma. There's people who function as like priests, who are allowed to like excommunicate or cancel people,
right,
for, you know, various heresies and you know, mortal sins, you know, saying the wrong thing, or like you know, and, you know, there's like quasi theologians, you know, there's like people that come up with new dogma, like, you know, check your privilege, or like unpack your, I don't know, backpack or whatever, or like, you know, intersectionality, you know, decolonize your whatever, right? Like, so these are like new dogmas that these like quasi priests, you know, come up with, and then you get more prestige for coming up with it, and then like people who disagree with them get, I don't know, canceled or excommunicated, right? So he basically called it as like this, you know, Nietzschean Christianity after Christianity, which is even worse than Christianity, right? So he's like, the thing that, like, I think Nietzsche has this line, like, the thing that will follow Christianity that will be even worse than it,
right?
But it's descended from it, right?
Yeah.
So it has that same DNA,
right?
Of you know, that kind of like Catholic structure of like, you know, priests and canceling or excommunicating people, and you know, doing this kind of stuff, right?
Interesting, yeah.
So you call it the vampire castle, and
why vampire castle?
Well, because I don't know, it sounds cool.
It does, yeah.
Sounds cool, right? Well, yeah. So I guess just because this is kind of like parasitic, you know, structure that, you know, kind of feeds on these, I don't know, academics and other culture workers, I guess. So the essay is called "Exiting the Vampire Castle," where he's basically like, just Twitter.
Like, how do we get out of this?
Yeah, and he's like, you know, Twitter's maybe not as important as we think it is, you know, right? I mean, this is like what, 10, 15 years ago, right?
Right. And we're still exiting it.
We're still kind of exiting it.
What the woke stuff, we're kind of talking about it before, but is it dying down?
Oh yeah, big time.
What do you think is causing that?
Donald Trump.
So but okay, so how does that work? Because theoretically, there should be more wokeness and more outrage in response to him being in power.
And there is,
And there is.
But there's also like, you know, anytime you have a reformation, you have a counter reformation.
Okay.
So I think a lot of the tensions that, and again, I'm not saying everything about wokeness was necessarily wrong or bad. Some critiques, again, are actually accurate, you know, structural critiques about things. But once something swings far enough in a certain way, you're literally sowing the seeds for a backlash, right?
Right.
And we're currently kind of in that backlash, you know.
It's just
so
pendulum swinging.
Yeah, it's pendulum swinging, right? But it never exactly swings back the same way, right? So it's not like all of that was erased. I mean, it's still there, and it's still in, I guess, dialogue, right? So it very much is like, you know, it kind of develops as it swings, right? It's kind of like a dialectic to get, you know, get like Hegel or whatever,
right?
But yeah, we're currently in a massive, I guess, counter reformation or whatever.
which would be the non-woke side of things.
Yeah,
you think?
yeah. For various reasons, and we can see that. Well, look at Kanye. They're like asking him. They're like, "What's the sound of your new album?" And he's like, "It's an anti-Semitic sound, right?" And the song is like, "Hail Hitler," right?
Right.
So,
you heard about the cousin song, right?
Oh yeah, he's like sucking off his cousin. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So you're gonna get things like that as a counter reformation, I guess.
Right.
However silly they may be.
Did you listen to it?
I don't know, 10 seconds. I mean,
this is art.
You kind of get I don't know if I go that far. I mean, it's
hey, it's lyrics over a beat.
It's certainly lyrics over a beat.
Same categories, Biggie Smalls.
Yeah, it's certainly lyrics over a beat. I feel like an AI could have handily cranked that one out.
That's a good question. I mean,
I do sometimes wonder if a lot of these artists aren't just doing things like that. Like they're just using the equivalent of ChatGPT or something to just make beats. And
so I've shared this with you before. I can't remember if it was on the pod. Fear Street. Did we talk about it? Like the Ripley. Yeah, it might have been on the pod already.
Series?
Yeah, but so they made a Netflix series.
Okay, yeah.
And I watched it in like 2021 or whatever when it first came out. And this is, pre-ChatGPT. Yeah. I'm sorry, I think we might have talked about this before, but
I don't remember.
Keep it brief.
So yeah.
Sorry to the listener if
I usually forget what we talked about, like literally not even 30 seconds after we log off.
Especially the recent ones, it's getting a bit difficult. But anyway.
To remember what we talked about?
Like I felt it was easier before, but anyway.
I don't remember what we talked about before or the recent ones really.
Okay.
Other than we talked about I remember things that like pulp science fiction and the Shaver mystery, just because those are things that I think are hilarious that no one really talks about anymore. But other than that, I don't really read. Or Sherlock Holmes and Professor Challenger. I'm glad we talked about that because it's another thing no one.
The people.
I've literally never heard anyone talking about that, and it's like funny, but.
But yeah, just on the Ripley, what is it? R.L. Stein? R.L. Stein, right?
Goosebumps. Okay. Goosebumps. R.L. Stein.
Fear Street. So they did a Netflix 3-part movie series like 2021. And even as I watched it, pre-ChatGPT, I was like, this feels like it was like written by AI or something.
It's like AI dialogue or something.
Because like just the sequence of scenes didn't really make sense. Like some parts it was just like you wouldn't just put these two scenes back to back. You wouldn't have the dialogue end like this in this scene and start like this in that scene. Like it just felt like jagged.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, they're probably using like AI tools kind of
I'm sure
ahead of release, basically.
I know that public. I think it was Paul Schrader, the director.
Yep.
Well, he did some post where he's like ChatGPT is a better screenwriter than I am or something.
Right.
Where he just like full on was like, it's like like I sent it ideas and it produced a better script than I would have written or something.
Right.
Which is pretty funny, but
what do you think of that? Do you think he has a legitimate point, or do you think that speaks to his inadequacy as a script writer? Like
possibly. Well, I'm definitely not gonna shit on Paul Schrader, man, because he's responsible for some amazing movies. So I don't know.
I'm blanking on all of at the
Taxi
moment.
Driver.
Okay.
Mishima.
Taxi Driver Mask.
Mishima.
Okay.
Well, what else is he trying to think? What else? He's First Reformed.
Okay, First Reformed. I enjoyed that. I thought that was interesting.
Well, his movies, in the like he's considered a classic, screenwriter and director, and he's a cool guy. I mean, like I definitely wouldn't rip on Paul Schrader. I guess.
Man, that is a wild picture.
Which one? I mean, he's like 80. What?
Yeah,
I don't know, 80 or something.
But the blackout sunglasses.
Yeah. Interesting individual too. And yeah, he's produced some certainly classic movies. Which
did you watch First Reformed?
I haven't. No.
Yeah. It's peculiar. It's interesting.
It's a mood,
I guess.
Yeah, there's a few people I know that really liked it. Like they think it's like one of the best movies ever.
Well, so it's like part of the like transcendental cinema movement,
okay,
right?
yeah. I'm just looking at Paul Schrader movies here.
Yeah. It gets pretty like wacky towards the end, I would say.
Okay.
But in kind of a bizarre, I don't know, it's almost like a I don't know, like a blue cheese direction where it's like, this is really weird, but I kind of like it.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
so,
check it out.
I don't know, man. Yeah, so maybe he's right. I mean, maybe he vibes with it to the point where it would lead him to make better movies, and that's cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I probably wouldn't. Again, I'm not really writing movie, and again, like movie scripts are such like there's no. It's such a, I don't know, wacky art form because it's like some people write them almost as if they're like books, like Quentin Tarantino scripts versus other movies that barely have scripts, right? You know, like some directors, like the actors just improvise or like think. So other movies, like again, Tarantino, it's like he's basically, you know, doing his best to write, you know, Shakespeare or something, right? Like he really means for people to be reading that script, right? You know, he like really takes it seriously, right? But at the end of the day, most people are gonna watch the movie, not sit there
and read the book,
reading this script, right? So Paul Schrader movies, I mean, if he's able, like, again, the AI is not directing the movie. It might be writing it, maybe, or helping him write it. But I don't know if it's gonna determine what his direction would be like either way.
Yeah.
You know, but
I mean, I think you know my take. I think everyone else knows my take. But it's a pretty powerful collaborative partner.
Yeah, well, I'd agree, man.
Easier to work with than a human, right?
I don't know if I'd agree with that. But
interesting.
I would agree with the first part. I mean, I think you could probably produce some really interesting, you know, results.
I would say easier in terms of it's more likely to execute on your vision if you give it the right parameters. But I feel like with a human, you're kind of, there's that, you know, it's another person, right? So they have another vision. I don't know
if I having artistically collaborated fairly consistently with people for, I don't know, maybe 20 years. I don't know if I would agree with that either, but I certainly would agree with the first part. I mean, it could be a good tool to come up with stuff.
Right.
Kind of, and that's what I think Schrader was saying. I mean, he was just getting, you know, he was pitching ideas that he thought it was, you know, clarifying or kind of expanding. So
did, going a bit off the sort of collaborative aspect, we talked about the syncopathy bug in ChatGPT.
Syncopathy.
It's I think it's simpatico, but the noun version of that word.
Okay.
Anyway, I need to read it to remember the word, but basically it's like the ChatGPT being way too stoked on all your ideas.
Oh, it's like it gets excited or whatever. Okay.
Over terrible ideas.
Over terrible ideas.
And apparently there's this phenomenon of like ChatGPT induced psychosis now, or like relationships that are getting torn apart by ChatGPT
because people are making decisions based on what
basically
it says,
or like they get way too into, you know, they're running like their chats with their spouse through ChatGPT and like looking for underlying meaning, or, you know, ChatGPT helps them basically have a mental break and radically change their life or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about this with someone else in a chat just today, actually, and I just said, like, I feel like the very concept of, like, I don't know, outsourcing your cognitive labor is a bit sketchy to me. Like, I'm not saying it's categorically bad, but like in much the same way that, like, I don't know, if I stayed in bed all day and robots brought me meals, like, I don't know how healthy that would be for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, if you apply that to your mind, then like, does the same principle maybe apply? Because, you know, at the end of the day, if you have to leave the house and, you know, exercise your muscles walking to get, I don't know, a meal, you're probably going to get some sunlight on the way,
Mhm.
probably going to get some exercise. I mean, you could just get, delivery and I don't know, maybe have a robot
Right.
bring it right to your bed, and then you wouldn't have to get out of bed.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, it would generally, you should do more, not less. I think
yeah.
like
So, and
the
certainly,
healthier thing to do is to do more.
Yeah. And I would say that applies to cognitive labor
Mm.
as much as like physical labor, right?
So what if it basically just shifts your cognitive labor though? Because you put your cognitive labor into how do I get ChatGPT to give me the results?
But I guess the question is like, why would you need to do that most of the time? Like,
what if it's well, okay, so I keep going back to programming, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this isn't relevant to your perspective since
but
it's a technical task.
So that's
so
a
you put
specialized
technical tasks in a separate category for.
Well, those like programming tasks are specialized technical disciplines, I guess.
Right.
Whereas like if I'm trying to decide,
well, what about script writing?
Well, again,
same thing.
I think you probably could use it if you have some framework, but I also personally don't really, I guess, feel the need.
Right.
Whereas like I usually feel like my own process of generating ideas and refining them and, cross-referencing them with other things is like inherently does that anyway.
Right.
And like the more I do it, the better it gets, right?
Right.
So my own constant exercise of that labor constantly makes it sharper
and pays dividends.
And better. Yeah, it makes it better, right? And yeah, I mean, I definitely gotta, I don't know, eat my Wheaties and get some calories to keep that running.
Right.
But it makes it better, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally, in much the same way that like I sort of see it almost like a wheelchair or something, where it's like certainly not going to knock wheelchair users, if they can't use their legs. But if you can use your legs, then you're probably just going to be just as good off just walking, right?
Right.
And maintaining your legs that you can use. Again, and there might be some environments or specialized tasks where an astronaut coming back from space might have to use a wheelchair because he's been exposed to space, right? So it's not there's anything wrong with wheelchairs in and of themselves, but I don't see it as being necessarily outside of, again, technical disciplines or writing code or something, or and again, maybe even scripts. I mean, could if it works, okay. But most of the things that interest me kind of do rely on weird human overlap and collaboration. Well, the other thing too is that like artistic collaboration, like even if it's not exactly what you were imagining, sometimes it's better. Like the misinterpretations sometimes actually make things like better. And like the weird like overlap or static sometimes makes things better.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what like creates that sort of magical dynamic,
right?
Yeah. And the sort of iconic duos or iconic groups.
And it's sort of like
where everyone just plays off each other.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, I think Brian Eno says something like with like things that seem like weird errors at first eventually seem kind of like essential. Well, like he gives the example of like crackling records. When you got a turntable and it kind of goes like and like people get to the point where they can like design like perfect lossless CDs and I don't know, audio files.
But then you just put that sample into the song anyway, right?
Yeah. So then you get people wanting to be like, oh, I kind of missed that crackle.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Or like, but the interesting thing is that he doesn't even limit it to that. So he says like, like the weird compression of CDs then is also something which people are going to end up missing.
Right.
So he's like every medium's apparent limitations actually end up being its defining like characteristics, right?
Well, it's kind of like the phenomenon of VCR, VHS style kind of,
Well, yeah, so it becomes like its own style.
Or like the 2000s digital camera now is kind of like back, right?
Well, it's like a conscious style now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just like, oh, it just tends to fuck up like this, right?
The red eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
Overexposure
But now
flash.
people are like, oh, we want that, warm look from shitty old Polaroids or whatever.
Right.
But at the time, it was just like some weird error.
Right.
Like it wasn't considered like desirable.
Yeah.
But now it is, right?
Right.
So that's sort of I think that's another aspect of it is like things that, like the weird awkwardness of actually collaborating with humans kind of adds its own, I guess, layer.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure ChatGPT like also has interesting layers that, as you've been kind of mentioning, right?
Yeah,
like
I mean, there will be, that's an interesting lens to look at it through. So right now, you definitely can, like I see on Reddit people posting stuff, which is clearly just ChatGPT generated,
like hallucinating weird.
Well, not a hallucination, but they'll make a post as if they wrote it themselves, but I can clearly tell that ChatGPT wrote this
or whatever. Yeah,
not summarized necessarily, but it's like
written.
Like a reply that they got from a conversation with ChatGPT, because there's all these mannerisms that
like
ChatGPT
and stuff,
phrases it loves to use. You're fine tuning at this point, or you're not crazy, you're awake, or like kind of that like bam 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 type pacing in a sentence, right? And this is basically coming from the 4.0 model, which is going to be different actually than other models. So yeah, indeed, in the future, like ChatGPT Z10 or whatever will have like a nostalgic 04 mode or something.
There's already people that do that with the images. Like there's people that like miss the remember those like original like kind of like wormy looking.
Oh yeah, the terrible AI stuff, right?
There's people that really miss that now.
Like the hot dog fingers or whatever.
They're like, oh, that was like lit. Like that was where like that style was like its own aesthetic.
It was its own thing for sure.
It was its own thing, right? So there's already people that kind of that sort of like psychedelic looking, kind of like weird overlay.
Are we talking about the Google Deep Dream?
Yeah,
thing?
Deep Dream, right?
Yeah, so where it's like the pagodas and the squat. What is it? Bird, slug, frogs.
Yeah, so people miss that now, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that was kind of its own aesthetic, right? Like
it was way ahead of the curve, man. That was like 2010 when that was like happening, I believe.
A little bit later, I think.
A little bit later, maybe 2012.
Yeah, maybe more like 13 or something.
13, but still, that's way early. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I feel like it kind of ran its course pretty quickly because everything just turned into a pagoda, bird, frog.
I feel like you can still see traces of that in some of the AI art that people are. I do feel like its DNA is still kind of there in some stuff that I see coming out. That again is trying to like sort of deliberately mimic that. Like it's trying to create these like kind of grotesque images that like seem a little bit like that, maybe.
I kind of wonder what happens if I ask ChatGPT here, generate a Google Deep Dream style photo. And I will not put this into the video, so I apologize. But our own, maybe, I don't know. I'll hold it up to the camera in a second here.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious what ChatGPT comes back with if you ask it to like emulate the style.
Do you think it would be able to do that? Or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure it has enough data points to do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see what it comes back with. Here I am, just mindlessly burning natural resources for the purpose of entertainment.
Purpose of random entertainment.
Yeah. We'll come back to it. I see it rendering here. It's funny. So just as we're talking about, it's emulating the style of like the loading the image line by line.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like remember downloading an image in like 2001 or something? Is it coming through?
Yeah. I mean, well, I think like the first thing is it's way too like it doesn't have that weird uncanny looking actual reality.
Right.
So it's very much like a cleaner version of it.
Right.
Like it has that cleaner kind of
Yeah,
It's much cleaner than the original weird.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'll hold it up to the camera here just so if anyone's watching, they can not feel too left out. Just roll over here step by step.
I mean,
double check.
To me, it just seems like a kind of cleaned up recreation of that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it's funny because it did get the kind of pagodas, but yeah, the style is completely different, right?
It's like Interpol instead of Joy Division. You know, it's like the cleaned up remake or whatever.
Right.
Like the scrubbed clean remake version of without the weird suicidal scratchiness or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Not that Interpol wasn't an interesting band for at least one album. I thought their first album was good, but not much beyond that, I guess. It's funny that people are like,
what would I know from them? I'm desperately blanking.
It's like around the same time period as like the Strokes and stuff. Another band that like people think is like good and important now, but at the time everyone was just like rightly making fun of. Like, oh, this is like the most derivative cliched music that had come out for a while. But now people are like, I don't know, nostalgic about it, I guess. Just because it was around, I guess. Like people get nostalgic about things just because they were around. Well, I mean, because they're just nostalgic for how they felt at that time, right?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with the actual quality or content of the material. They just felt, I don't know, young or excited at that time.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, Mr. Brightside, like fucking, right? Yep. It's like, okay, like.
Yeah, it is. I noticed that yesterday at karaoke where like I was never a Lady Gaga fan or anything, but like hearing it now, and it's like, oh yeah, Bad Romance, right? Like from 2010 or whatever. Like it is weirdly nostalgic, and you weirdly feel like I didn't like it then, and now it's just because it's attached to that time. Right.
Yeah, well, that's all it is, and that's pretty. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I mean,
it's literally just there.
It's just there, right? Yeah. And there's no real problem with that, I guess. But a lot of people are literally that's their career. Is like their like Journey, right? It's like don't stop, like okay, like you're gonna have like a 30-year career after, just based on that. Like someone remembers hearing,
that's good, right?
Someone remembers hearing that in like a pizza place when they're like 12.
Right.
And then that's like those people give them a career for like another, I don't know, 30.
I mean, you won the lottery basically, right?
You won the lottery,
You hit the cultural...
most of the time it's, but it's just such a, I mean, again, I don't know if we can like really shit on it, but
I say just get that bag, right? Like, why not?
Why not, right? Yeah. But it is kind of...
Don't be too cynical about it, I guess.
I mean, you don't want to get too cynical, but at the same time, you'd be like, oh, well, like, at the same time as Journey, was anyone like making actual crazy good music? Because probably people were. And like, if you dug it up now, it would probably still be like good, right?
Right.
So I guess that's kind of the other side of that is like, if you find something from back in the day that was maybe slept on, but it's actually really good,
right?
Then you're like, oh shit, like this hasn't really like aged. Like it's like still fire 40 years later or whatever.
On the note of cynical cash grabs, did you hear about this meme coin suicide thing?
Maybe. I hear a lot of these random things, but I don't really pay them much mind.
Not worth too much attention. But long story short, some ex guy who was going through a hard time ended up like committing suicide.
What, because he lost all of his crypto or something, or like what?
That was part of it. I mean, he was basically a meme coin trader. He was trying to make money. I mean, like folks like. I don't think this needs to be said, but yeah, meme coins are not how you build generational wealth.
Or are they? Where are they?
I mean, if you can tell the future, then maybe yes, it could actually be a very good way to make money if you have a time machine or ESP.
Time machine,
which is another tangent we could talk about, but Yeah, like he was, he was on some live stream on X and ended up like basically committing suicide.
Like on camera?
On camera,
okay,
basically, yeah. He was like playing Russian roulette or something.
He just like blasted himself.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But I understand that it very much looked like he was like deliberately committing suicide, essentially, right? Because he just kept pulling the trigger until went off eventually, right?
Does tend to happen.
It tends to happen.
If you keep pulling the trigger.
Yeah. But like his last words was like, if I do die, like at least someone can turn this into a meme coin. And they did.
They did?
Yeah.
Like suicide coin or something? Or,
well, it was his like X handle or whatever, I believe, became the token name.
Is anyone cashing in from it?
Yeah, people made money off it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
It's kind of like mayhem, right? Where the
exactly. I watched the Wall Street Journal article on this, and they're like, oh, like meme coins, like, how they're moral outrage, basically, right? Like, but I was literally just thinking, well, this is just mayhem, right? Like
just mayhem,
just cashing in on the suicide, right?
We probably could have exploited Rodrigo's suicide more, who was the Argentine neo-decadent poet.
Okay.
Who
this is news to me, so please fill me in.
I think it was suicide in 2023 or early 2024. I wrote an obituary for him because I was in contact with him,
right?
And I tasked him with reforming Argentine culture, and
didn't go too well. I take it.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, he was. I don't think he would have taken it too seriously. I mean, he was a pretty pessimistic, individual, but he was a interesting poet and kind of writer. In Spanish. I mean, he was writing in Spanish, but
so if we want to go down this path, and we don't have to, but how would you have taken better advantage of his suicide than that purely theoretical?
Posted about it more, maybe, or tried to, I don't know, dig money out of his corpse more or something.
GoFundMe type.
GoFundMe, yeah, or like do something about it, or I don't know, rather than just treating it,
with dignity, with
some dignity,
yeah.
With some dignity. That's the case. I mean, people always kind of do that. I mean, it's I don't think he would have been surprised or particularly offended if we had done that.
Right.
I mean, we didn't.
Right.
But if we had, I mean, I don't think he would have been like, oh, leave my poor name alone. I mean, he probably would have gotten more attention for his writings that posthumously.
So there is a question. Like, should you basically do that, right? Like, is the cynical cash grab actually the way to go? Because it's like, if you don't try, then you don't get the chance at it.
Yeah.
And if you do try, well, then who cares, really? I mean,
is
there ever really any backlash to it?
Yeah, there's not. I don't think there would have been in this case. I mean, but I mean, we probably, there's one of the members, Salvatore, who's in Peru, I think is still compiling Rodrigo's unpublished material. So it probably will get, I don't know, published as a book at some point and get some exposure, which is what he, probably would have wanted.
Right.
So, there is some effort to get it out there.
It's a dignified way to go about it, I guess, right? Not.
Yeah. I couldn't even take writing his obituary terribly seriously. I mean, I don't think he would have been I don't think he was like really a, I don't know, somber person. I mean, he was a very depressed, maybe pessimistic person, but I don't think he was like particularly somber, I guess. So I don't think he would have wanted me to write like a completely, I don't know, like moral or serious obituary.
Right.
So I did try to put some, jokes and just random things in.
Was it published? Like where
was
it
just published
go?
on the website or
I see.
Group site or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I guess if you're going through a hard time, there are resources available. Necessary PSA.
Yeah.
Don't do anything that
don't do anything
you'd regret
I feel like this
tomorrow.
is like Wayne's World, where they always like, they're like, speaking of Pepsi, and then, have you seen like I like to enjoy Doritos with my whatever.
Yeah, help is available.
Help is available. Yeah. Or is it? Can anyone ever truly help you? Or do you have to help yourself, right?
Right.
You might have to just help
indeed. Or can ChatGPT help you?
Yeah, I was just going to say, right? Can ChatGPT help you? Yeah.
Which it can, honestly.
It can, yeah.
I went to a therapist a few times.
I was meaning to ask you about it. Like, again, if it's not too personal,
no,
like,
did
you end up continuing it? Or?
Basically, I didn't, because I just feel like I got out of the rut I was in.
Okay.
And I think I like started seeing her like right at the end of the rut anyway.
Okay.
So it's like well underway already.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't get too much out. Like, honestly, I didn't get much more out of it than ChatGPT, right?
I feel like this is still a pretty heretical opinion. We kind of talked about
what I'm saying now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it could speak to her quality of instruction, I suppose, more than anything else. Not to say that she's bad at her job.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
we haven't even identified her, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I mean, I was happy to see her during those times, I guess. Yeah, but at least a lot of what I got out of it was her just essentially validating and letting me expand on my own thinking.
Yeah,
which ChatGPT is great at doing.
Yeah,
really good at just redefining or recapturing what you're trying to say and kind of giving you some additional fleshing out directions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't find it too useful, and I think she's sitting in this English-speaking Tokyo counseling niche.
Yeah,
where I'm guessing it's not terribly competitive.
Yeah,
so
right.
she's just kind of like cashing in
on it. Yeah,
not cynically, but she's
just
cashing in.
A bit of a cash in. Yeah,
and I mean she's providing a service. She's there if you need to talk with her, and she speaks English. So yeah. But did I get much out of it? Not really. But she specializes in a certain kind, or she's able to do a certain kind of therapy that requires some setup. And I didn't get to that personally.
Right.
So maybe there would have been more benefit to working with a human through that.
Yeah.
But at least for my purposes, ChatGPT just seemed infinitely more useful and accessible. But if your ChatGPT is overly, and I pulled up the word because I wanted to show it to you so you can read it. This word.
Oh, sycophantic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a normal word. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah.
A sycophant is like a flatterer.
Okay.
It's like someone who like sucks up to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I've heard it before outside this context, but it's just a word that
you wouldn't normally use.
Yeah. Wouldn't use basically.
You should use it.
I should use
Expand your vocabulary.
I should. Yeah. I stopped reading.
You didn't just used to like read the dictionary when you were a teenager.
I mean, I did in like grade 4 or something, but I don't know. I don't think sycophants came up during that time.
Yeah. But sycophants are just like flatterers, basically. So they're like kind of like sucking up to you, or just telling you what you want to hear. Right?
Yep. Yeah. Which is real danger with these ChatGPTs, especially if you're. Yeah, I mean, maybe I find my approach to using these tools. I'm a pretty paranoid person in general, but like I really, I'm constantly trying to find the hallucination in what it's saying. But yeah, certainly if you're kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum where you're just looking for confirmation and validation at all costs, this thing will drive you insane. This thing will,
just repeat everything back to you.
Yeah, and you can absolutely, just what's the word? Blow up your life, basically.
Blow up your life, yeah.
It'll happily encourage you all the way till the end, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of I think we talked about this a little bit when Jeffrey was here. There's a lot of criticism that could be aimed at, I want to say, like therapeutic or therapy culture, I guess, is its own. Like I certainly don't think it's if anything, I'm probably on the critical end of like I wouldn't, I'm very much not like, oh, everyone should do therapy. Like I definitely am not even really a supporter of it.
Everyone should examine their values.
Well,
but people don't do that.
Yeah, everyone should certainly examine their values.
Yeah.
But I I'm not super against it, but I'm also not like, I don't know, like a believer, I guess.
Yeah.
So I believe that people can get value from it, but
I feel like it's another one of these fields that's overly saturated potentially, and there's tons of people cynically
just kind of grifting through it, or
maybe not even grifting. Maybe they're just they're treating it as a cashier would treat their job at a grocery store, where it's like, okay, well, they say this, I say that, and I go home to my family and dog at the end of the day, and spend money.
I think they should do psychoanalysis, right? Psychoanalysis. No one probably. I feel like psychoanalysis seems
you're obsessed with this this word,
just because it's hilarious. Like, because there's that comic, like there's a comic book.
Yep.
I mean, how, like, is there a cognitive behavioral therapy comic book?
No, it's
that's right.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, it's hilarious that, like,
I mean, CBT just sounds like it came out of a management boardroom or something, right? The terminology.
Oh yeah, well, it's such like business ontology. Like, it's so like let's get you functional again, so you can go back to the office, right? It's like such a
let's get that matrix cable plugged back in.
Yeah, plug you back in, right? Everything will be smooth and fine, and you don't have to think. You can just knock this out, right? But no, like, psychoanalysis, like, I think that's why it is hilarious and more interesting, because it's just like it's so much like dirtier and, like, I guess, like, mythic. And I think that's why, like, a lot of people, I think that's why it eventually fell out of favor, because people are like, wait, like, does everyone really have an Oedipus complex, or like, does everyone like, is this actionable, or like, it's. I think the further we get from that time period, like, it seems less and less like scientific, but especially, like, once, Jung and everything, I mean, it's basically like occultism, right?
Right.
Which, again, Freud criticized him for.
It's like kind of like charlatanism or something.
Well,
or like that's the perception of it now.
That's certainly the perception of it, is like, what do Greek myths have to do with, like, a depressed person or something? Can't we just give them, I don't know, drugs, or like give them, I think we're like, I feel like, again, cognitive behavioral therapy is literally behaviorism, which is like the Skinner conditioning idea.
No, please explain.
Behaviorism. Well, so behaviorism is, I can't remember his first name, Skinner, BF, I don't know what the BF stands for, but, so he was looking at it as like humans are basically just like robots. Well, because, like, chemically they kind of seem to be, right?
Yeah, you can.
So he's like, if you just, like, condition animals through repeated stimuli,
right,
then they're gonna behave a certain way,
right?
Like, if you electroshock them enough times, they're gonna. If there's two doors and one always leads to an electric shock, after a while, they're just not going to go in that door, right? Because they're getting conditioned that. So he created these, like, he called them like Skinner boxes, which were like, well, yeah, kind of like the Matrix, right? They're like devices that are like little mazes that, like, are designed to condition animals.
Is this like learned helplessness territory, or
I guess that's one application of it. Okay. But again, he would condition, like, rats and birds to, like, complete very elaborate series of steps by just, like, again, applying stimuli.
Right.
And, like, if they didn't do what he wanted, he would just, like, I don't know, shock them or torture them or something, right?
Right.
And he's like, well, this is just what you do to humans, right? Like, he's like, there's no real difference. You just, if you want to decondition something, you just apply an opposite stimulus, or, like, and if you want to condition someone to do this, you do it, right? So it's very, like, mechanical, it's just like conditioning the, I don't know, human robot.
Yeah.
And that's all there is, right?
Right.
And that's sort of like, as can be inferred from its name, cognitive behavioral therapy kind of is, I guess, behaviorism in a way. So again, like, going by that approach, I mean, like, the consciousness or the unconscious, the consciousness, much less the unconscious, doesn't really even matter, because it's just like, apply stimulus A,
right,
get result B,
right.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it doesn't. So it's sort of like it doesn't even really make sense to like talk about the mind.
Right.
And like I feel like Skinner kind of didn't even really. Maybe he was a bit like, I don't know, Daniel Dennett or something. Like he kind of didn't even think there was a mind.
Mm-hmm.
He thought it was just kind of automatic processes that, just happen.
If it did exist, it didn't matter because you like, just apply stimuli.
Yeah. So it's like, whether it exists or not is kind of unclear.
Right.
And even if it did, it kind of like wouldn't really matter. Right.
Right.
And that was very influential. Like I feel like that influenced a lot of, again, including possibly the CIA, because that was when he was around, right? He was around at that same kind of founding super CIA early mid 20th century, period, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think a lot of like therapy is like still again, including cognitive behavioral therapy is like still kind of descended from that.
Right.
Whereas psychoanalysis is just way too weird, man. It's like, you're trying to interpret these like dreams and like, mythic like it sounds kind of like a bit like Fantasyland,
Right,
and a lot of people are like, well, wait, I want to get back to work. I need to do this. Like, need to program the numbers, need to make sales, right?
Yeah. Don't have time to unpack.
Don't have time to unpack like, repressed primal imagery and all this like,
well, then you, this is the whole sort of just take a pill mentality, right?
Just
like I feel sad.
Just take some antidepressants.
Well, you have a serotonin balance, and it's normal to have a chemical imbalance, and some people just need a little adjustment to bring them back to normal, and then you'll feel right?
And this is like, this is a lot of I want to call it like anti-psychiatry critique of and again, by psychiatry, that's what they mean. They don't necessarily mean like, I don't know, Freud or something.
Right.
They mean like, pharmacological,
intervention, basically.
Intervention, pharmopsychiatry complex or whatever.
Yeah. Which is about as cynical of a cash grab as you can get, right? Like, I don't care about your experience. You're just a malfunctioning robot.
Malfunctioning robot that needs an adjustment, chemically adjust the levels or whatever. So there's a lot of those critiques going around. And there's a lot of people that are violently opposed to those critiques.
Right.
They're like, no, we need medication, we need therapy, we need blah, 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 right?
I saw someone who did not have. I was close to someone, and the night and day difference of when they go off their medication, and how dare you, insinuate that this is.
So it's a very touchy topic, right? It's a very sensitive, sensitive topic. It's has very passionate people on both sides, right? So
I mean, where I ultimately land on it is the long-term solution does seem to be like do the work, do the cognitive work, figure out how to move through it, right? And I get that it's not pleasant, and I get that it's time consuming, and I get it's inconvenient, and you just want to go on with your life, right?
The other thing too is that Freud and Jung said a lot of things which are like not, I guess, like particularly like woke. Like in the sense that
they're like having sex with their clients, right?
While doing cocaine and giving the clients cocaine. So
great old time, right? Good old fashioned fun. Whatever happened to that?
But like Jung especially kind of said that like neurosis was kind of like a form of cowardice. So he's saying like people manifest neurotic symptoms because they don't have the courage to like face the pain, kind of.
Right.
And like if they did, like it would be painful.
Right.
But then they would maybe get through it.
Right.
And again, like that, I guess like in modern terms, that sounds very much like victim blaming, right?
Yeah.
So like understandably, again, like there's a lot like that kind of material doesn't get a lot of play now because it like isn't very like woke, right?
So basically the idea is neurosis is like instead of dealing with the matter, it like leaks out in weird,
like you create it's basically like you create a coping mechanism,
right?
So you're like, oh, I don't have the courage to, I don't know, like show up at work,
right?
So I'm gonna become disabled, like I'm gonna disable myself by means of, I don't know, saying I have trauma or something, and then I won't have to go to work, right? So I manufacture a coping neurosis, so I don't have to deal with the thing that I'm afraid of, right? Which again can sound like you're blaming someone for having problems or something.
Right.
But that's what he said, right? And it's not clear that he was necessarily wrong.
Right.
There's maybe different ways to deal with that information, but yeah. So I feel like, but yeah, like I feel like I mean, I don't know. Like I haven't been to any therapy really, so I don't know what they would say now, but I very much doubt they would frame things in that way. You're
well, it's very not PC, I guess.
Yeah, it's not PC, and it's not really like yeah, it's just it was a different world when they
different paradigm.
Different paradigm and different world when they came up with these ideas.
Yeah.
But I still think they're interesting and potentially very valuable.
I'm sure there'll be a resurgence.
Yeah, I think there kind of is. Like there are. I have seen a lot of people re-engaging with psychoanalytic material.
Maybe sort of psychedelic renaissance is kind of part of that resurgence,
Could
right?
be.
Like let me dive into the unconscious mind and actually try and figure out what's going on here.
Could be some overlap.
Yeah.
How are we doing for
let's
time?
land this.
Seems like it was a nice
hour 10
So I think we're getting an intuitive sense of the time from doing this over and over.
Dialing in the internal clock, I guess.
Internal clock, yeah.
One thing I want to say, thanks for listening, folks.
Thanks for listening.
Please like, subscribe, comment, please share if you enjoy this program.
Yeah, there has been better, like there's been lots more engagement recently. Like even just in the past month, engagement has been way up.
Substack blowing up.
Substack is getting good.
I think that has a big part.
Getting good engagement too. Yeah. But there's definitely crossover.
So
if you enjoy, leave a comment or share it.
Share it with someone that you think might enjoy it too. Thanks for listening, basically.
Peace.
Yeah. Have a good week. Peace.